Well, let's move now to our Focus report, which this Friday takes us to China, where ivory is considered a status symbol and as such fetches a high price, more than €1,000 per kilo. But by the end of this year, authorities plan to enforce a ban on ivory trading, a move designed to end smuggling. This will mean progressively shutting down dozens of shops nationwide. But as our correspondents report, there's a debate as to whether this strategy might actually save endangered elephants, as Beijing claims it will.
This is what normal buildings look like inside this quiet neighborhood of Beijing. However, cameras are prohibited inside. We're using a hidden camera. Inside the shopping mall, dozens of shops sell different pieces of ivory. They include African elephant tusks and carved artifacts. These are shops being shut down today, the official end of the ivory trading in certain shops. However, the enforcement remains unclear.
Some
of the pieces cost more than €1 million. It's understandable why some of the shop owners don't want us around. By the end of this year, the Chinese government intends to shut down 143 shops across the country. In Beijing, several have already been closed. The total trade ban also represents the end to a career for certain artists. Chunka Li has been sculpting ivory for 35 years, but the material he uses is getting rare. He guarantees that he works on legal ivory taken from animals which died naturally. But asked specifically, he won't talk about smuggling or poaching, only the ivory itself.
Look at this beautiful white color. This is gorgeous. It's impossible to imitate this texture. It changes with time. As it gets older, it gets even nicer.
Symbol of a certain social standing, ivory is still very in demand in China. Thousands of years of culture have left the Middle Kingdom in love with it.
Chinese people have been in love with ivory since ancient times. We have used carved artifacts since the end of the Stone Age. We've even found a comb dating from 3000 BC. In Beijing's Forbidden City, ivory carvings are everywhere, perhaps 4,000 or 5,000 ivory objects.
China remains the primary market for ivory, which has been pointed to as one of the reasons why poaching in Africa remains a problem. Beijing wants to change this, given its desire to appear like a responsible power. Officials here in China insist the move to ban ivory sales this year are groundbreaking.
China is one of the very first countries in the world to take action. Many countries still consume illegal ivory products. They can easily be found all around the world. In this aspect, China is the very first to take action. The country is an example, a model.
In reality, the new regulations are only a first step. Smuggling ivory remains a lucrative business in China. Every year, Chinese customs seize between 800 to 900 cases of poached ivory. In many cases, the ivory is not only decorative, but also used in traditional Chinese medicine. In many parts of Asia, ivory is considered medicinal.
This is our latest campaign targeting Chinese tourists traveling abroad. We suggest them not to buy elephant tusks or any other products coming from endangered animals.
China is a signatory to the Convention on the Trade of Endangered Species. But in signing, China was given some exemptions. But as of today, the Worldwide Fund for Nature is sounding a victory.
Most of the Chinese customers will comply with this new law. If ivory is illegal, they'll no longer want to buy it. And then the demand within the Chinese domestic market will decline significantly.
However, enforcing the ban will remain a problem. Hong Kong, a known trading hub for smugglers, will only start banning the trade in ivory in 2021.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined in the studio by our guest, Jean-François Di Meglio from the Paris-based Asia Centre. Hello, thank you very much for being with us. Do you think that this ban will make a real difference first?
Well, in a way, it's old news because China already announced it several times. What is new this time around is that there is a time set for stopping the imports. So, in a way, this is, of course, a progressive step that China is taking, and this is fully consistent with the will expressed by China to be more and more involved in global governance in all its aspects, including climate, including protection of wildlife. So it's a positive step. This being said, and you mentioned about Hong Kong, but we'll talk about Hong Kong later. But this being said, once you stop smuggling, it all depends what you do with the inventory. If the inventory is crushed, then obviously the trade is totally gone. Now, in most cases, the inventory was just stockpiled in some places. And because this is China, and in spite of all the good intentions, which was displayed by the people interviewed in the report, there are still ways, and even in France, we know about it, even for drugs. When you stockpile drugs, even at Quai des Orfèvres in France, you don't know whether they won't be traded out again in the market. So the only solution would be really to crush the inventory. Then what will happen for sure is that the artworks will fade away. The shops will close down, the artworks will fade away. But as was said very, very efficiently, it's not only about artworks. The artworks will probably gain value in the future, which at the end of the day pleases many, many people at once. But also it's a way to invest. You invest in ivory because it will become rarer and rarer over time. So it's also a solution to crush the inventories, because even if the inventories are traded and are not manufactured and become artifacts, if they gain value just by the mere value of being inventories, then you can have smugglers still very much interested in approaching the officials.
And does this new measure, and the fact that it's being put into place finally and acted upon with a clear deadline, as you said, does it come with a strong legal response for those who are caught either trading or buying ivory?
Well, that's a very good question. For sure, we probably only get half of what's happening. The other half would be, as you rightly said, what are the really lawsuits against the people who have been trading this ivory. We have to remember that China currently is within an anti-corruption move, and has been so for 3 years. Obviously, this not only is part of the integration of China in global governance, but it's also fitting very well into the anti-corruption move. So, well, the jury is still out to know whether the real culprits will be punished or not, whether there will still be a trade in a different manner, and if you close down the shops, whether there will be a black market or things like this still keeping with the trade of ivory. And
might implementing this ban also make it easier for some China-dependent African nations to fight against poaching?
Yeah, it's no wonder that this ivory is actually African ivory. You do have ivory in Asia, of course. In Asia, the elephants are smaller, so you get less ivory. So you can say that the yields on each animal is less. But it's also an expression of very strong presence of China in Africa. They have a bigger lever on African countries, so hopefully, yes, they will be able to implement what is said. We have to remember that 50% of the whole number of elephants disappeared in 5 years in some countries in Africa. So that at one point of time, whatever the governance in China is, becomes a real concern, and that really triggers action.
And you mentioned Hong Kong. Is that going to be a massive loophole?
Yeah, because Hong Kong, the issue is that you have one country, two systems. So whatever is implemented in China by law is not necessarily implemented in Hong Kong, because you still have two legal systems. So Hong Kong does not go by the same rule of law, and or at least rule than China does.
And the illegal trade is likely to go on. Who is it that keeps buying it, and for what purpose? Is it the medicinal or the status symbol?
I think those are the two main drivers. Medicinal is quite important, and China is the only country. US is also very big in trade of ivory for two reasons. Because, of course, it has value, but also you also have Asian communities in the US, so that also explains. But medicinal is quite an important factor.
And might that die out with a new generation?
Possibly. Yes, the new generations, I think this is a very good way to approach the question. You have a full change of mentality in China, with new generations really breaking up with all those traditional thinking, which are not really based on scientific facts or whatever. So definitely, it's part of the changes which are happening in China. Definitely. Yes.
Jean-François Di Miglio, thank you very much for having spoken to us.
Thank you so much.
And with that, we're leaving this hour live from Paris. Stay tuned. We'll have a full news update at the top of the hour.